you guys? It's your girl Carly. Welcome back to my channel, or welcome if you're new here. If you are new here, make sure to click the subscribe button down below. I post videos every single Sunday and I would love to see you in the next one. I recently just started doing these videos and I've watched them every single month from other creators and I love it. I think it's a great way to reflect. I think it's a great way to stay on top of your budget and also your goals. And I'm really excited to share with you guys and walk you through what my monthly reset is looking like this month. Okay, let's talk about reflection for the month. Question number one is, what went well this month? For me, this month was my largest financial month of my entire career, and I actually still kind of can't believe it because it feels surreal. For my agency, we actually count revenue by going off what has actually been signed that month versus what comes in. So instead of counting like actual money that hits my bank account as part of a goal for every single month, we do it in a way where if the contract is signed, the value of that contract counts towards that month. You guys know I'm not shy or secretive about the influencer industry, how much money I make, how I make my money, how I spend my money, all of that. And it's so crazy because if you watch my reel of how much money I made last year as an influencer, I actually made half of my entire year last year in this month alone, and it's mind-blowing to me. Mind-blowing. I know that being an influencer is a lucrative career when you are successful in it and people make a ton of money. To actually see that on paper was the most wild thing of my entire life, of my entire career, and I'm so grateful for it. I'm so thankful. I'm so happy that you guys let me do what I do, and I love you. Thank you. Thank you! Two more things that went really well this month is we actually introduced a new payment processor on the agency end, which means I don't actually have to wait those net payment terms as long as I usually have to. I would say 80% of the payments have been good, which is fantastic because my cash flow has been more easy to manage, which if you own your own business, you know, sometimes this is a little bit of a roller coaster. And finally, I think something that went incredibly well this month was the amount of press and event opportunities I've gotten this month. This has overall just been like a wild month for me in terms of press appearances and like TV stuff and getting invited to events and finances. I'm truly shocked because if you have been around for a while, you would know last February was very different for me because I was stuck in Nashville for 3 weeks because I got COVID. There were so many restrictions, I couldn't go home. Last February was wild, but in a completely different way. Speaking of last February and what didn't go so well, I got COVID again. I got COVID again this month, which I think is the most insane thing. Let me tell you how weird the universe is. So if you followed me last year, you would know that I went to Nashville for a work trip. I ended up getting COVID, and then I had to stay in Nashville for a total of basically 3 weeks. February 17th of 2022 was the day that I was finally cleared, that I was ready to escape Nashville. Tell me why February 17th, 2023 is the day I got COVID this year. I don't know what joke the universe is playing on me or what I'm simply atoning for, but I cannot believe it, and I also cannot believe the timing. On top of that, getting COVID was actually very devastating, not because I was super sick, but because I actually had a trip planned. See how that works? Funny how that works. But I had a trip to LA planned, and I actually had to cancel it because the day I would have had to fly to LA was probably my worst COVID day. And one, I don't want to spread it to other people. I was going with my manager. I was going to an event basically every single night in LA. I didn't want to be that person. And two, I felt awful. There were so many events that I was supposed to go to that I was really looking forward to, especially because they were like first time events. I was supposed to go to TikTok's Black History Month event, and I've never been invited to a TikTok event before. And I was so excited to go. I was so excited to meet other creators, hang out with people that I know. A couple of my friends in LA have cool jobs at like Netflix and Amazon and stuff like that, and they finally have guest passes. Their offices are open again, and I was gonna go visit them and visit the offices. I have friends from Australia who were literally in town until the exact same date I was supposed to be in town, and I didn't get to do any of it because I was here having COVID. Obviously, I'm disappointed. I'm devastated by that, but I do trust that maybe that was for the highest good, for my highest good. The universe was like, no ma'am. There was flash flooding and snowing and hail in LA during the weekend I was supposed to be there, so maybe it was that, but that sucked. That did not go so well. Moving on to what challenges I overcame this month. The first one, the most obvious one, COVID. But I conquered it. I actually feel like I had hyperspeed COVID. It was like one and done, 5 days. good. Besides that, I am picking up on the busy season in my business, and like we just talked about, I just signed on so much work, and I know that I'm about to be super busy for the rest of the year. And that has been kind of like a double-edged sword, because January is generally more chill. I find myself kind of like nestling into that chill, I can just focus on myself type of vibe. Now having to focus on all of my own content plus sponsored content can get a little bit stressful. And I do think having the week off that I had to take when I was sick really kind of helped me to rest. It was like a forced rest because I know I'm about to be really busy. And on top of that, if you guys have watched the last reset video, you know that I'm relaunching my podcast coming up in March. That has also been a struggle because I've been building sets, I've been trying to figure out the whole process of it, and it definitely was a struggle, and it definitely was something I overcame this month because I spent almost a straight week trying to figure out the best way to build the backgrounds for the podcast. And if we're being honest, I still don't know if I love them, and I still don't know if they are the right choice. But for right now, it's done, and that's all I can ask for. Where did I spend my energy this month, and did I want to spend it there? This month, I feel like I spent my most energy, both physical and mental, in building the podcast background sets. Did I want to spend it there? Yes. I knew I needed to do it, but did I want to spend an entire week doing that and figuring it out and trying and failing a million times? No. I actually do feel very guilty and like I pushed the project along too long, and I feel like I almost rushed in or maybe didn't research enough because I felt like I was in analysis paralysis and like planning paralysis of trying to figure out what was right and what was perfect, and I felt like I just needed to be done. But I do think that that was the wrong choice, and I spent so much time and so much energy and also money to create something, and it's good, but it's not what I want, and I feel like I know that, and realizing that has been so devastating because I spent so much time and money and energy on it. I still don't think it's right. That being said, I do think that it serves a purpose, but I don't think that that purpose is to solely be the podcast background. I'm trying to figure it out. I'm trying to find a better solution. Have come to the decision really that I just need to do it and I just need to start, which is kind of what got me here in the first place, which is a good and a bad thing because I feel like if I didn't just do it, I would still be in my analysis paralysis stage and not getting anything done. But on the flip side, I wish I would have maybe abandoned it a little bit earlier and spent more time figuring out what the right solution was versus rushing because the podcast comes out in like a week and a half from now. That is definitely where I spent most of my energy this month. Like I said, did I want to do that? Yes. But did I want to spend that much time on it? Absolutely not. For our last reflection question, what is one thing I want to release coming into the new month? I would definitely say it's the podcast stress. I've brought it up so many times that I'm sure you guys are like, oh, we can feel it, sister. We know that you're stressed, because I am. Something that I think I need to remember is that I've been doing this for years. This is literally the 4th year of the podcast, but the 1st year video-wise. And I think that's really what is stressing me out the most is the video element of it all, especially because video podcasting is so new. Most of the video podcasting that we're seeing is studio quality production. And that might be like a fatal flaw of mine, that I love production. I want it to look fantastic. But I think that at the end of the day, I'm not signed to a podcast agency. I don't have unlimited funds. I don't have another space where I can just record a podcast and have it only be a podcast dedicated room that I can make over and make my own. So I really have to realize that I'm doing the best that I can with what I have. And that's not saying that I don't have a lot, because I have a lot of options and I have the fortune to be able to figure this out. But at the same time, I don't have the same access to things that other video podcasts and networks kind of have. And I think that I just need to let go of the stress, realize I've been doing this for years, and just let it go and let it be, and know it'll be good. Moving on to the vision board of the month. I actually was really excited making this. I've realized like the theme is very pink this month, regardless, because I'm wearing blue right now. I do love this blue, it's very cute. The theme for my vision board this month was for sure pink vibes. It's because even though it's freezing, like it's like -20 outside today, spring is in the air, baby. Spring is in the air and I know it. So that's why this month's vision board is very cute and very pink. Honestly, on here it's mostly podcast related, and most of it is related to my business and my personal goals, which we will go over later in the video. But I just thought it was so cute. I love this photo of the girl with her AirPods and the little bows tied to it. That's the cutest thing I've ever seen, and I will be doing it going forward. Coming into books to read, I wanted to share with you guys 2 books that I do plan on finishing and also starting and hopefully finishing next month. Currently I'm reading this book. It's called How to Build a Goddamn Empire by Ali Kriegsman. To be honest, I had no idea who this person was when I bought the book. I'm still unfamiliar with the company that she owns, but it is less about like, this is how I built my specific business, and more about how to create a business around you. So for example, they have a chapter about hiring and creating a team and stuff like that, and I think that was like very valuable to me. So I'm excited to finish this book. I've had it for years. I think I cracked it open one time and read 1 chapter, and then I was just more enthralled with something else. I have been trucking along reading this book, and I do really like it. The second book that I will be reading this month is called The 5 a.m. Club. I will put a photo up here. I've also read this book before. It's similar to how I read Atomic Habits like once a year. The 5 a.m. Club is a great book. It's so funny because when I first bought it, everybody in my life knows I'm a morning person, okay? It's easy for me to be a morning person. I don't really like to sleep in. Getting up at 5 a.m. sure is early, but it's not like it's super hard. So when I bought the book, my friends were like, yeah, whatever, 5 a.m. Club. I've recommended this book to 3 different people, and every single time I get the book back or they finish reading it, they're like, Carly, this book has changed my life. So many different people have benefited from this book, and I do think that I need to read it again, specifically because I am going into the busy season of my work life, and building that foundation of productivity and giving myself those extra hours in the day definitely is gonna help me out. All right, friends, let's get into finances. If you watched last month's video, you guys are familiar with my personal expense tracker on Notion. I will be adding this to the Notion freebie library. I didn't upload anything for February. I'm so sorry. I was dying, but I will be uploading 2 different templates into the Notion freebie library in March, which one of them will be the expense tracker. So if you are interested, I will put the access link to the freebie library in the description below so you can get yours. With that being said, let's get into it. Something that I actually changed this month for the expense tracker is I added this little box right here called paid off. And I did this because instead of waiting until the end of the month to pay everything off, what I've kind of been doing is doing like a 15th and 30th or like halfway through checkpoint based on the statements for my credit cards. So once the kind of like middle of the month hits, what I'll do is I'll go through and I will use the filters up at the top. So we have payment method, for example. I'll click on Amex, and anything up until 15th, I will look at the total at the bottom and I will just send a payment over to my Amex for how much I paid for that month. I also added this because I have the different selections like my Service MasterCard or my Neo card or bank payment, and when I was going to pay off expenses, even though I would sort it by Amex, 1, I didn't know if I paid it or not, and then 2, when I was looking at how much I spent for the month, I was like, oh, but I already paid this because it came out of my bank and not out of my credit card. So that's another reason why I added this little checked off paid off button. So anytime that anything came out of my bank payments, I would just check it off immediately because I've already paid that in cold hard cash dollars. Scrolling down to the bottom, which is our totals of the month, our budget, and how much we may or may not have gone over it. Let's talk through this. Starting off at the top, we have subscriptions, which I have budgeted for as $250. Last month we were truly out of control with the subscriptions. I think that our last month, let me just check because it was nutso. Yeah, last month we paid $505 in subscriptions, which was crazy. But as I said in last month's video, there were a lot of things that I was paying for that I maybe didn't need to pay for, and because it was the start of the new year, there were a lot of things that were like a one-time year payment for the rest of the year. I knew it was going to be slightly lower this month. Not even slightly. I knew it was going to be lower this month, which is why I only budgeted $250 for this. But as you can see, we're at $276.44, which is $26.44 over our budget. However, there are a couple things that I do think I can cancel, or things that I have canceled, a big one being this canopy expense. The last month, I was charged $6 for shipping. This month, I was charged $30 USD on a $30 item, and I was shocked and appalled. So I canceled that. So next month, hopefully we are perfectly on budget with our subscriptions. Moving on to transportation. The only transportation expense that I have this month was putting air in my tires at the gas station. So this is the food category. Before I launch into my defenses, let's just go through it. As you can see, the most reoccurring largest expense of this month was takeout. And I try to limit myself with takeout every single month. I'm normally pretty good at it. Last month's grocery budget was basically right on the nail. Obviously, I was stuck inside my house for a week and I didn't have a lot of options, which is why my food budget is so much higher than it was last month. Specifically, I spent $608.65 on food this month. I'm over my budget by $108.65. Because of that, I don't feel bad that I did go over this because I was just doing what I had to survive. I gotta put me first. Into our investments category, I am very proud of this page every single month, and I'm very proud of myself for investments and savings because that was something that I was not a part of for a while. Something that I did do differently this month is I actually set up automatic weekly payments to things like my RRSP and my TFSA, so my retirement and my tax-free savings, and that's why I have so many more transactions this month, but it does equal the same amount of money. For my emergency fund, I saved $1,000, and also for my RRSP, I saved $1,000. As you can see, there's only one Miss Independent Fund transaction here for $270, and that's because last month, before I really locked down my budget, my goal for this was a lot higher. I think it was somewhere around like $1,700, and I was like, I can't sustain that. I need more money going into savings than I really do into investing. I need to focus my energy there first. So I dropped this number down drastically. The goal is $582, but because I essentially over deposited the month before, the difference was $270. So that is the only deposit that I made to my investments this month. And before we get into the fun money shopping category of it all, I wanted to talk about this misc expense category, which wasn't actually in my budget last month, and it's not necessarily budgeted in. As you can see, it says NA right here, which means I don't have any money budgeted for this because these essentially are expenses that are unpredictable or don't happen all of the time. Most of them, as you can see here, are medical. So these ones specifically, I had a dentist appointment last year sometime in the fall, and they took until the start of this year to realize that my insurance didn't cover everything. So I did have a medical bill that was unexpected, so I did have to pay that off. So that's why this is in here and why it did kind of push me over in my budget. Last but not least, we have the shopping, entertainment, health, beauty category, which I'm honestly shocked is as low as it is. Because if you remember last month, my spending was a little bit higher than I had budgeted. This month I was firm with how much money I was actually supposed to be spending in my fun money category. As you can see, Sephora has got me in the grips because why did I spend so much money at Sephora this month? My budget this month for fun money was $850, and we're coming in at $810.64, which is fantastic and under budget. Something that I actually found very interesting this month is that I almost had a healthy fear of overspending, spending too much money too fast. And what I mean by that is when the new month hit and I had a new budget to play with and new money coming in, my original impulse was to be like, oh, now I can go and shop and I can do these things. And as you can see, I did that pretty off the bat, but it did take me like a full week to actually spend a large amount of money. I actually think in the future, this is the way that I'm going to be treating all of my spending, my personal like fun spending, because it really made me think, do I actually want this thing or do I want it in the moment? And then two, if I want that thing, if I actually realized that I wanted it, okay, well then I would buy it and I'd be happy about it versus just recklessly spending money, which I definitely used to do in the past and definitely had a problem with. All in all though, I am very proud of myself for coming in under my allotted fun money budget because I really thought I was going to at least spend it and then maybe even spend a little bit over, but I spent under and I'm very proud of that. What I'm also very proud of this month is when we add together our actual spend, the total is $4,299.68, which is only slightly above our actual budget of $4,212 flat. And I truly do think that if I didn't have these miscellaneous expenses, I would, one, be under budget, and 2, the plus and minuses of the certain categories would actually kind of balance themselves out. Overall, I do think that tracking my spending, be it personal or business, has been so transformative for me. I used to be terrified to track my expenses and look at my credit card bills and look at my income and figure all that stuff out and save for my future. Just doing it these past 2 months, I've been excited to look at my finances. I've been excited to create certain paths and structures and plans for my future, and I can see now why the people who love personal finance, because it's really rewarding and very exciting to be like, I put this in and I got this out and it was good for me, it was good for my future self. If you guys are on the fence of budgeting and tracking your spending because you do also have those kind of fears and you maybe don't want to face them, I would highly encourage that you do, because the arch of feeling anxious and like you don't want to deal with it to excited and empowered is incredible. Moving into the goals section of this video, let's talk through personal and business goals. On the personal goals side, the first one I have is to make a plan and pay off a large chunk of my personal credit card bill. Being more on top of my finances, which is something we talked about in my last monthly reset, has been very eye-opening and also very exciting for me. I think that I've really honed in on budgeting and strategy and money and all those things, and I've been really excited about it and I'm having a great time. However, I think I got too micro-focused on my business and not focused enough on my personal income and my personal budgeting. I looked at my credit card bill and I was in shock. I was in shock. That's a big goal for this month, is figuring out where in my budget I can allot more money or take more money away from, so I can really attack the debts that I have accumulated myself. Another personal goal is to declutter and keep clean the kitchen area in my apartment. I've said this before and I will say it again, I am not a kitchen area table, eating at the table person. Because of that, I don't really place a lot of importance in the kitchen, and it just becomes like a catch-all for everything in my life, and I don't want it to be that way, because I want the space to, one, look visually decluttered, because having a clean, organized space is soothing to my brain and I will need it. And then also, it is nice to just have the option. Sometimes I do find myself being like, oh, I wish I could sit down at this table and eat this meal, or I wish that I could sit down at this table and do a paint by number or do a puzzle or do something like that, but I can't because it's full of stuff. Another personal goal is to drink 3 liters of water a day and take 10,000 steps a day. With the spring energy, I don't know what has been like growing inside of me like a little sapling, like am I Bette Midler, am I the rose? It's been growing inside of me where I just want to drink a lot of water and move my body and get on my little treadmill and do all those things. So I'm consistently very active. I stretch every single day. I'll walk on my treadmill during meetings and stuff like that, but I'm not as intentional with actually hitting those goals. So something that I will be doing this month is being a lot more intentional with hitting those goals to make sure that I really am drinking 3 liters of water and hitting those 10,000 steps and making time and actual effort to get those done every single day. The last of my personal goals is to create a savings account specifically for the deposit for my future house. Now, I'll talk about this in a whole video of its own, but I went through house trauma where I essentially bought a house, it didn't work out, we had to cancel the deal, all of this stuff. But I got far enough in the process that I learned that, yeah, you can have a down payment, but you also have to have a deposit, which I don't know, maybe I'm just dumb, but I had no idea. So the regular deposit amount is like $10,000, and I was like, okay, well, I'm using like my first time homebuyer advantage, I'll take it out of here, and they're like, no, you need it like now. And I was like, oh my God. So I don't want to be unprepared if I find my future home, hopefully in the near future. So another goal of mine this month is to diversify my savings goals and start putting money towards that, so that when the time comes, I at least have half of the deposit, hopefully all of it, to be able to be like, okay, we're starting the house journey. We're starting the buying of this property that I love. So that is my last personal goal. Moving on to career goals, I have 3 different ones for this month. Number 1 is to obviously launch the podcast and stay on top of my socials and my episodes. I am very lucky that I'm able to hire for this position my best friend, Annika. We've been friends for 22 years this year. She is the podcast editor as well as the podcast social girly. So once everything is kind of started and we've hit our stride and our flow, I don't think that I will stress as much about this, but because it's just so brand new and it's a brand new journey and step to take with both of us, I really want to be locked in and loaded this month to make sure everything is going off hopefully without a hitch and everybody's having a good experience, including myself, and you guys love the podcast. The second one is to hire a virtual assistant to get me right and get me tight on YouTube Shorts. This is something that has been reoccurring on my to-do list like every single day, and it's the one that I strike off because I'm like, I don't have time, or this isn't important enough, or XYZ. And I've realized, because I've done that so many times, I just need to hire someone to go through all my content, download it, and schedule it for me, and then eventually I can start doing it on my own. But right now I really just don't have the time, especially with launching the podcast, going to busy season, and keeping up with all of my own content. I desperately need to hire someone this month, so that is high on my radar. My last business/career goal of the month is to be invited to the WNBA game in Toronto. If you guys don't know, I am very much a sports girly. I'm obviously an ex-CFL cheerleader. I've talked about this before. My mom was also a cheerleader, so we were like a football family growing up, but as I've gotten older, I've really expanded into other sports, specifically basketball. I'm actually a season ticket holder for the basketball team in my city, and it is so much fun. I have such a great time. I went knowing nothing about basketball, and now I'm invested, now I'm obsessed, and it's so interesting, and I've been having a great time, and I'm really excited for this WNBA game in Toronto. It's the first one ever in Canada in the WNBA history, so it's a really big deal, and I'm really hoping, me and my agency have been cooking up a pitch, I'm really hoping that I will be able to get invited and do some type of brand deal situation, or maybe a press trip situation with them. I am very excited. I'm really hoping that one comes true. And with that, it takes us to the end of this video. I really hope you guys enjoyed sitting down with me, going through my budget, going through my goals, going through my reflection of the month, because I really enjoyed filming this video, and I hope that you guys enjoy watching it. Before you go, make sure to give the video a big thumbs up and subscribe down below. I post videos every single Sunday, and I would love to see you in the next one. And if I don't see you in the next one, I hope to see you in the comments where we can chit chat all about today's video. I will answer any of your questions, and I will see you down there, or I'll see you on Sunday.